Welcome to CityCast Denver. I'm Paul Caroli, and here's what Denver's talking about. What makes a restaurant great? Is it the food? Or is the food merely one aspect of a more important metric, the vibe? A few months ago, host Bree Davies sat down with one of Denver's top architects of great vibes, Kevin Wynn. He's helped design a ton of great restaurants, which you'll hear all about, and give you a peek into just why, when the industry is struggling and closings are rampant, some restaurants manage to thrive. But before we get to the show, I want to talk about Keep It Local. It's our new weekly shopping guide newsletter. Think of it as your guide to all the best stores, bars, and restaurants, but with neighborly tips to help you make the most of them. Think secret menus, discount days, deals, and all that good stuff. Subscribe now to make sure you get it every Thursday afternoon. And a huge thanks to our sponsors who help make it happen: the Denver Economic Development and Opportunity Office and the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce.
Kevin Wynn, welcome to CityCast Denver.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. So, what's the first thing you notice when you walk into a restaurant?
People. It's funny because you talk about space all the time, like that's where we live in this world. And I think for me, the very first thing I notice is the hospitality portion of it. How are we being greeted? Is someone walking up to me? Is there a host that's waiting at this? Is there a stand? Like all these little pieces. Yeah.
So how the space is supposed to function.
Yeah.
And how does that inform when you step into a space to design it?
It kind of starts at a very just like theoretical moment, I guess. We work with the restaurateurs that we're working with to try and understand, how do you want the space to feel? What do you want this to be? You know, it's everything from, we've done counter service restaurants up to super high-end fine dining, and everybody has a different sort of like viewpoint on how they want their space to feel. So we try to just sort of like model and craft the space to emphasize those moments, because the goal is that the space itself directs people to where they need to be.
Right.
And then the hospitality is sort of natural and instinctive. Just trying to create a space that lets people do their best work.
That's so interesting. So when you're talking to like a chef about how they want it designed, they're envisioning how it will function serviceably, but it also has to match how someone walking into the space might interpret that?
Entirely.
Okay.
And I think that's the really hard part about it.
Right.
Is everybody interprets things differently. And, you know, I think the simple answer, everyone's always just like, well, we'll put up a sign and then everyone's going to know where to go. But nobody reads signs.
Nobody reads, first of all.
Correct.
But also maybe how someone interprets what that sign
Yeah.
is telling them to do. That's so interesting.
So we just really we try to think about really intentionally how we're greeting that person. I was told a story a long time ago about the Tavernetta group, and Tavernetta specifically, and just the location of the host stand was very intentional. Designed by Bobby Stuckey.
Okay.
In that the way they want people to come into the restaurant is to be greeted by a human and not a piece of furniture. So their host stand is like 15 feet away from the door.
That's interesting though, because that's a cue to me as a customer. I'm supposed to walk to that thing.
And the intent is that the staff walks towards you and you meet them halfway. And so your first interaction is hospitality. It's people. Yeah. And it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. And I think it's why those guys have such a reputation for what they do.
I was going to say they are successful. And
Yeah.
maybe part of that is because they've designed a space that sets the tone for the experience they're
Right.
going to have.
And experiencing those types of spaces, I think, just gives me like an energy to do better constantly. So.
Yeah. This is funny. I'm thinking about, I worked in retail for a really long time, and I worked at the Apple store for a little bit. It is completely takes the retail experience and flips it upside down. Yeah. I would say for better and for worse, but there is no cash register.
Yeah.
And there is no line.
Yeah.
And all these things that you sort of associate with it, but the people are what you interact with first, and then they set the tone for what you do.
And I never thought about that. Where to be, and like, it's something that feels so. It's missing in our society, right?
Oh my God.
We're all stuck on these screens talking to each other back and forth. This is so refreshing to actually sit with a human right now. But it's just like, those are the things that make every day sort of worthwhile, at least in my point.
Yes.
And if we can just have more of those and these little micro moments that are just positive experiences, I think everything's better.
You're speaking my language so much because I think this is something, I think the pandemic exacerbated it, but like service is not always the first thing that a business seems to be thinking about.
Yeah.
It's like that part is missing. Like sometimes I don't even see a person.
Yeah.
I walk up and there's like an arrow to an ordering screen.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I mean, I get you're like saving money, I guess, but also I'm spending $90 here. I would love for someone to just be like, hi, how's it going?
It's just a little bit. It doesn't need to be a ton.
No.
It's just micro moments. And I think, we're very lucky in that our client base, the people that are coming to us for help designing their spaces, understand that value. Otherwise, they wouldn't be hiring an architect in that same sort of way.
So let's talk about that. Who have you worked with in the city that people might know? Because you've worked with some big names. I mean, it's kind of a laundry list in a good way.
My big joke is that if you want to eat there, we probably had our hands in it. And it's not that far from the truth. I think we're really lucky. We worked with Tommy Lee was the first one to sort of take a risk. He's the very first restaurant that I designed sort of like solo with a partner.
And this is Uncle.
This was
Hop Alley.
Uncle Hop Alley, and then Molino Cheeto, which we just opened in Aurora.
Yeah.
But Hop Alley was the first restaurant that I sort of did as a sole practitioner sort of vibe with a partner who started the business with me. So
that's awesome. Uncle's one of my favorite restaurants.
Same.
Like of all time. And I'm thinking about it now from a service perspective now that you've explained this, because the setting is sort of the background in that like it fits right in and it's not that you don't notice it, but the thing I notice first is I'm greeted by someone always. They're super friendly in a way that's not overly like saccharine friendly, and they look cool. Like
they're way cooler than me every time I go.
Totally. And like, but I didn't think about that. But it's an open kitchen. Usually you can see what's going on with the chefs. And like, so I guess when a chef comes to you and says, I want you to design my space, what is the first thing that you ask them, or what is the first thing that you look at before you even start?
The very first thing is, are you crazy? Because opening a restaurant is a horrible idea.
Cost prohibitive for sure.
But then we really just try and dig into, I think my job sort of as a designer is to sort of like get into people's psyche a little bit. People in general aren't great at expressing what they actually want. So we ask a ton of questions. It's, what's the service style? What's the food type? Why are you opening this restaurant? What makes this space special? And just try to really understand the things that make this particular restaurant tick. And, we meet with people very early on, hopefully when it's just kind of an idea in their mind before they have a space, because we try to influence all of those directions. So all the way down to, why are we picking this space? Why does this neighborhood make sense? And all these things. And hopefully in understanding all those pieces, when we actually are getting into the nitty gritty of, where does the kitchen go? Is it an open concept? Is it more hidden? We understand the reason and can justify why we're making all of those decisions throughout the pathway.
Was there a particular challenge that you've come across that's like, you guys had this great idea, you talk through it, then the space is not something that could fit that idea?
I think we've had a lot of those sorts of things. And for me, like, that's what makes it fun.
Challenge.
Weird spaces, quirky spaces, tough budgets. Like all those things sort of like force us to do our best creativity within the process. One of them that's really funny, I don't know if you've been to the Wolf's Tailor.
I have not.
Now it's a 2-star Michelin restaurant. When we designed that space, it was a counter service. Not counter service, sorry. It was sort of like more of an a la carte, like more akin to like Hop Alley or Tavernetta or one of these other sort of like middle high-end restaurants, right?
Yeah.
And we designed a beautiful space. You had an entry through the front door. There's a cool little host stand that we built into the banquettes and all this stuff. And it was literally like a week into the restaurant operating, and we just all made a decision. The chef, the owner, everybody, that it made more sense to enter through the garden.
It just felt right, or like people were already using it that way? What was it about the space that said that to you?
It told the story better.
Okay.
So we basically, this restaurant, the Wolf's Tailor, amazing story. It's about sort of like the unspoken makers, right? So everybody talks about the big bad wolf. but nobody talks about the tailor that made his whole story even work, the person that made his
Sure.
costume. So we built a beautiful garden in the back of the space. We have a kitchen that's totally on display. It's basically a glass box, like a jewel box in the middle of the restaurant. And by entering through the front of the restaurant, you don't really see that stuff until you sort of like stumble upon it
You have to
throughout your
explore it a
experience.
little bit.
And we just sort of like started walking in from the back. I think that was how we walked in before service started or when we were doing construction, and it just kind of like stuck into everybody. Like, we were always coming in this back door, and you get to kind of like meander through the kitchen, you
Yeah.
meander through this garden. And then as they've sort of grown and become more and more of what they are today, that whole garden experience has gotten just even more intense and beautiful. And it's just this primer to experience something amazing.
That's amazing. So it's like you realized you wanted to tell a story, but you couldn't tell it from literally the direction that the restaurant was flowing.
Yeah. So we adjusted some things, and it's being able to adjust and make changes is really a part of the whole industry, I think.
Sure. So you are an architect who obviously designs restaurants. What was there a restaurant in your life that you go back to or that inspired you to say, I want to create this thing that, like what was there a restaurant that inspired you, I guess?
I don't know. I think my journey through architecture has been a really interesting one. I got out of school and did big multifamily residential projects, 10, 12-story buildings. And then 2009 crash happened. Everything went away, lost my job, literally got my master's degree in the mail and lost my job the same day. It was a really fun one. And then I went into just commercial architecture because that was what was busy and was working, and I just did not find fun in it. And I've always loved food. I've never been sort of like a food person in the way that I am today specifically. And it was about 10, 12 years ago, kind of introduction to Tommy Lee with Hot Belly. And then my wife and I just kind of started eating. And, we got to do it in the best possible ways that we sort of knew a lot of chefs in town because of the work that I was doing. And we got to really start to interact with these people. And my background in understanding the sort of like nuts and bolts of architecture sort of led to a way where I could use my relationships with these chefs to really understand the way that their spaces and their kitchens work. And I like to cook. I like to eat. And for me, it was kind of this unknown and magical alignment of things that I sort of loved, to the point where I think my love for architecture, my love for restaurants, and my love for food have grown sort of on this same trajectory over the past 10, 12 years, which is really fun.
So you're telling me you could probably get into any restaurant in Denver tonight, Valentine's Day night.
I eat okay. And I try not to use those sorts of things. I really respect the work that these guys are doing and understand, everyone's super busy. We want them to stay busy. And, we eat out on the days that people are not necessarily out all the time for the most part.
Sure. No, it makes sense. You know the business probably
There's
really well.
times where I've sent a text message of
like, hey,
please,
friend, can you get me in?
But no, I mean, I'm really lucky to do the work that I do. And, I just get to eat and drink for a living. It's sort of ridiculous.
So you mentioned that you designed like commercial spaces, like fast food restaurants, right?
Yeah.
What did you learn from that experience that you applied to a fine dining restaurant?
I think all restaurants at their core are kind of the same. It's about efficiencies. I mean, the things that we learn in fast food restaurant come down to seconds, right? Like it's, if I can get this burger out the window 12 seconds, 5 seconds, 3 seconds faster, it means that I can sell so many more burgers throughout the day. And what I learned from that is really translated down to the restaurants that we're doing. We, different than a lot of architects, we do the kitchen concepting design and the relationship for the kitchen into the restaurant. And in doing that, we're allowed to really understand how people are interacting with the space. How's the chef communicating with the servers? Is the front of house able to see the whole restaurant? Can the chef see out into the restaurant and understand how people are experiencing the meal? Sapsuo was one where we put in this huge picture window from the kitchen, and it was one that we didn't touch the kitchen otherwise.
Really? Because that's an interesting space. I mean, it's an old theater.
And it failed a lot. There were like 2 or 3 failed restaurants before
so
Sapsuo
many.
went in.
Yeah.
And, we did a lot of things. We changed how you enter the space
Mm-hmm.
through the new doorway and the host stand and all these pieces. So it's a little bit more welcoming. But I think one of the most important things we did was we put in this big picture window into the kitchen. And it does a few different things. I think from a consumer perspective, it's always like, I want to see behind the curtain and understand what's going on. But I think more practically from a chef and operator perspective, they can see what's happening in the dining room.
Yeah.
The chef who's working the expo station can literally see every seat in the dining room and understand what's going on. Are people enjoying their meal? Are people mad about it? Was that dish not hitting like it should have?
Because you can tell, you can look around a restaurant and see if somebody is not having a good time.
And I think that's one of the things that I do now, which is it's for better or for worse. But like those dark points are the ones where you get a bad experience or someone has a bad meal. And it's hard to recover from that in today's society. So like
you kind of get one chance sometimes.
Yeah. And I think that's what we're trying to do is create the most practical efficiencies throughout the entire restaurant so that everybody who's working there can just do their job in the best possible way without hindrance from the space.
Sure. This episode is brought to you by the Regional Air Quality Council. This summer, go wild for Front Range air quality. Created from pollutants like car exhaust, ground-level ozone is the Colorado Front Range's biggest air quality issue and a leading cause of respiratory problems. But you can take simple steps for better air this summer and save money on gas. Leave the car at home and walk, bike, or scoot shorter distances. Other ways to do your part? Carpool and combine trips to save gas. Or be a better person like myself and get an electric vehicle. And maybe my electric vehicle only gets 88 miles for a charge, so I can only go so far, but I'm driving an EV. Shout out to my Nissan Leaf! Woo woo! Want to know when it matters most to take these steps? Sign up for summer ozone alerts. Text Better Air CO to 21000 or sign up for emails at the Simple Steps Better Air website. Learn more ways to help improve our air quality on the Front Range at simplestepsbetterair.org. That's simplestepsbetterair.org. This episode is brought to you by Levitt Pavilion. You know the summer is officially here when Levitt Pavilion Denver drops their killer concert lineup. If you're not familiar, Levitt Pavilion Denver is a nonprofit concert venue offering free and ticketed all-ages concerts May through October. This season starts with a banger, people. Catch Bone Thugs and Harmony on May 22nd for a ticketed show that you won't forget. You know, you have not lived until you have cruised to Bone Thugs and Harmony's Creeping on a Come Up. Reminds me of back when I had a pager. Back in the day, we didn't have ringtones, obviously. We just had pagers, but you could personalize your voicemail. So you could just like put a Bone Thug song on it, and then someone would leave you a voicemail, and then you had to go to a payphone, and you had to call your pager, and you had to listen to the voicemail. That's a little history for you kids. Then, on May 23rd, see the first free series show of the year, Rock de Mayo, featuring Izcalli, Los Mocochetes, Fruta Brutal, Monica the Great, and more. RSVP for free shows, buy upgrades, and find the full schedule at levittdenver.org. That's levittdenver.org. So we're talking a lot about the flow of a restaurant or how it functions, but I have to say atmosphere is huge for me. How I feel in the space determines how long I want to stay or how long it's telling me I should be staying there. And I'm thinking about fast food in particular because in the last few years, I feel like there's this nostalgia for like these memes that's like mentally I'm in the solarium at Wendy's, or remember when Taco Bell's had these crazy colors, or when Pizza Hut's had Tiffany lamps and gingham and all of these things. And do you think that is something that could come back, or like how do you see that within when you've described yourself as a minimalist, and I would say that's not what I'm hearing people say they want. What do you think that nostalgia thing says about what diners want?
I think minimalism stretches further than a lot of people think. It's not just the big empty space that looks like an art gallery. I think it's really understanding how you're using things and using them intentionally. You mentioned the Tiffany lights at Pizza Hut. We just put one up at Johnny Bechamel's. And it was one of those things like...
I will go to a restaurant because of that.
Yeah, we didn't ask permission. It was one of these things that we were like, this is going to be really cool. And about halfway through construction, we just showed up with a Pizza Hut light and we're like, this is going over here. And everybody was on board. But like, it's those moments that I think can create something. I think, maximalism is very popular right now. And
Yes.
for me, it's overload. It makes me super uncomfortable. There's too much to look at. I'm much more about creating a space that emphasizes the pieces that really matter to the space, and then lets them go to the background. I think no matter what restaurant you're in, where you're going, you come in, there's this personal moment, you walk into the space. The hope is always that people are wowed by the space and love what they're seeing.
Yes.
But the goal is that once you sit down, it's about what's on your plate. It's about the drink. It's about the host. It's about the servers. And it's about your communication with the people that you're with. The restaurant should not be the main focus.
Okay. Also, communication with people you're with. Nothing drives me more crazy is when the music is too loud or doesn't match the space.
Yeah.
Do you talk about those kinds of components when you are talking to a chef?
Depending on the chef, we
Okay.
get really deep on things. And we'll talk about the types of music that we're doing, when we're working through what the audio system is going to be. How far are we going? Does there need to be a big bass line in this restaurant, or is it more of a background ambience noise? And then trying to understand the music combined with what are we doing from a sound deadening perspective to hopefully not create that tinny sort of like, because there's a tight balance in a restaurant between quiet and noisy, and you
just
want
like
it to feel alive without
cacophony of-
feeling like you can't hear.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge to get to that point, and I would say that we're still reaching for how to get to that correctly. I think we've done better jobs on some restaurants than others, but it's a hard one.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that now that you say that, the sound deadening from plates and
Yeah.
silverware and cups and people talking, but also if you walk into a restaurant and it's silent,
It's creepy.
you're like, I want to leave.
Yeah, because I don't want to have a conversation, have everybody listen
And have
to it in the
everybody
room.
listen to what you're saying. And you're like, okay.
So I want to talk a little bit of tea. Like, that's why we're out. But
But I don't want everyone from the 5 tables around us
right,
to know what
to
I'm
know
talking
what's going
about.
on. Yeah.
You told 5280 that you like to try the food first before you work with a restaurant. Have you ever had food and been like, this sucks, I'm not working with you?
Not quite that literally.
Okay.
I'd say there are definitely places that we've done that are not necessarily on our website or we're not talking about.
Sure.
But for the most part, I'd say 95% of the projects that we're working on, I 100% believe that if I don't believe in the food and I don't believe in the product, then it's going to be really hard for me to genuinely put forward a product and a project for you that is going to make you successful. And if that's not me, then somebody else could be that person that
Yeah.
can make you a successful restaurant. And I believe that you should go find that person. We're not for everybody. I really want to try the food. I want to go back there, and we frequent all the restaurants that we've designed. To the point that, I joke at the beginning that you're probably getting your entire fee back. It may take a
My
few
dining
years,
bills.
but I'm going to spend the money at the restaurants because that's what we do.
Yeah. I think too, the way you've described it though is like, it's not just about the food. It's like if you drive with the chef that you're working with, or like, is someone just like, this drives me crazy when people are like, I have a new concept. And it's like, well, maybe the concept and like what is the reason for you doing
Yeah.
this? And it sounds like you really choose a lot to work with chefs who care about the food, working towards something bigger. Like some of these restaurants you've designed have become Michelin stars since
Yeah.
then.
And I think the common thread, honestly, is that I think every chef that we're working with, every restaurateur that we're working with, believes in their product. Like what I learned working with Tommy at the very beginning is he's not putting anything on the menu unless he wants to eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you can say that about every restaurant in town.
And you mentioned him, and again, Uncle has 2 locations, and
Yeah.
the menus are not the same.
No.
And I find that so fascinating, but it makes more sense when you're talking about the chef being like, he's making decisions
Yeah.
about what does he want to eat in this, maybe in this space or this, this neighborhood even. It's just like, it's
It's so intentional. I think that's the craziest part about learning about how restaurants work and being inside of the bubble is just how intentional every decision is. And you can never, everything down to someone who puts a special out on a Monday, like that dish is 3 months in. Like somebody's been looking at that thing, you know,
Thinking about it.
at least in some form.
Yeah.
Like that dish is a test for something somebody's been working on for months. And that's the craziness with restaurants is everything feels like it happened immediately. Like it's so fast. Like you're getting your food in ridiculous amounts of time. But every single dish and every single piece is just so thoughtful.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Denver Health. As more states change their laws around psychedelics, a big question keeps coming up. What does that actually mean for people's health? Denver Health is working to find out. Denver Health just received major funding from the National Institutes of Health, one of the most competitive research grants in science, to study how psychedelic use and drug policy affect health outcomes over time. The research will track use patterns across the country and compare results in states with different laws, giving doctors, lawmakers, and communities the reliable data they've been missing. At Denver Health, bold research that improves health is part of the mission for life's journey. Learn more at dhha.org/psychedelic surveillance. That's dhha.org/psychedelic surveillance. Okay, one restaurant I do have to ask you about.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if you'd qualify this
I'm in
as a
trouble.
restaurant. Casa Bonita.
Yeah.
Okay. Atmosphere. Okay, I've actually talked to.
I haven't been to the new Casa Bonita.
You haven't.
No.
Okay, but you went. You grew up here. You obviously went as a
OG
child.
Casa Bonita has fond memories in my heart.
Okay, from a design perspective, from all the things that you were just applying to
Yeah.
these situations with these Michelin chefs and their designs, what do you think about a space like Casa Bonita?
I don't think Casa Bonita is a restaurant.
Okay, fair.
It's funny. I was an RA in my 4 years in Boulder, and every year I took the freshman students to Casa Bonita on this field trip because this was Colorado.
You're like, you
right?
guys got to see.
You
got to
see this thing. My wife had friends who were divers. And for me, Casa Bonita was a community gathering space.
Mm-hmm.
It was a place to be with people, and it was a place that like you could go with 20 people and it made sense. Like I very much am a firm believer, like 6 people is the max at a restaurant. If you're doing more than that, then do something different. Like you're not
what's
gonna,
the point?
you can't talk to the person across the table.
Yeah.
But at Casa Bonita, you're getting up in little groups and you're going to look at the caves or you're going to go watch the cliff divers. My grandma passed a number of years ago, and like the last really good memories that I have with her is the family would go to Casa Bonita. And we would basically just like constantly be feeding the mariachis. We'd be like, here's another 20, here's another 20.
Just keep
And
playing.
it was the happiest I'd seen her in a very long time. It's just like, she's listening to these mariachis. The family's here. We're all eating sopapillas. And life's good.
Yeah.
And to me, that's Casa Bonita. I'm not sure that the space influenced that.
Really?
I think it's a huge space, which is really nice. But I think the way that the space is designed with Casa Bonita, it's more, I always say, Disneyland kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is not something that we do very well.
Like when you're working as an architect.
Regular architecture. Like it makes me uncomfortable to no end. But sometimes that makes sense. And I think in a place like Casa Bonita, that's exactly what it needs to be. It needs to sort of like transform you in a very literal way away from where you are.
Yeah, I think you're speaking to the thing that many of us know who grew up OG going, it was not about the food.
No.
It's the ticket in
Yeah.
to see the other things and the communal experience. And I will say, unfortunately, with the way that it functions now, it's like impossible to get a table over 6 people. Like you can't do your birthday party there. You can't in the same way. But I will say I would recommend still going. I think you would appreciate the upgrades and the attention to detail because they enhanced a lot of the things that we loved. And it also just like someone's not going to die in there anymore. So, it's not a fire hazard. It's
a tricky one. I do love going to a restaurant where there is the potential for death. Like there's something about it that is special still.
I want you to swim through a cavernous thing and get out of a pool and be next to an electrical box.
Yeah, that's super safe.
Is there a restaurant in Denver that you didn't design but you wish you did?
I think there's some amazing restaurants in Denver.
Okay.
I think Agatha is doing some amazing work with Johnny's Curiel's group. The Alma, Alma Mezclari Alma. Alteño. I think they've done a great job sort of like developing those projects. I'm super excited to see what they do with this tasting menu restaurant that's opening up. Um,
A tasting menu restaurant, do you feel it has to be designed a different way? I guess would be my next question.
Entirely.
Okay.
I think we were the first to sort of like dig into that market here in Denver with Beckon. I like to think it's still holding up pretty well. It's one of my favorite places to eat. The space is crazy. But I don't know, like, I think she's doing a great job. I think, Maximalist Abby is doing an amazing job with some of her work. There's a couple of different architects here in town that are doing some cool projects. I think there's just a really cool scene here in Denver of restaurateurs and chefs that are creating a platform for designers and architects to sort of like spread their wings and do their good work, which I think is really fun.
You're just having me think differently too now about there's been this conversation of the evolution of Denver's dining scene over the last 10, 15, 20 years, folks that have been putting things into it. And now we're, some folks would say finally at a level where other folks are paying attention to us. Again, the Michelin star thing is relatively new for us.
It's an interesting one.
And I never thought about the design of the spaces being integral to the food.
Officially, it doesn't count.
Okay, so yeah, I guess it's not it's atmosphere.
Michelin says atmosphere doesn't count. It's just
Would
about
you
the food.
disagree with that?
100%. Not that you will find me in a hole in the wall on South Federal as many times as you'll find me at a Michelin starred restaurant. And I love both.
Yeah.
But I think there's this real beauty that comes from fine dining that I'm really lucky to have experienced and really sort of like understand and also sort of dissect in a way that, I mentioned people a ton. It's really hospitality is number one, and the space makes hospitality work.
Yeah.
Is the way that I see it. A good space makes the hospitality better. A bad space makes it worse. And better hospitality is better food, better experience, all these other pieces that just sort of lead to this successful space. You're going to have a better experience in a good space 9 times out of 10, whereas the other ones, there's way more possibilities for the miss. And I think with Michelin or some of these Beard Awards and all these other pieces, like they're coming to eat at a restaurant 2 or 3 times maybe, and it has to be good 2 or 3 times.
Yes.
And that's hard to do if everything's not clicking.
Yeah. I guess my last question is, we talk about this a lot on the show, Uber Eats and Grubhub and all of these ways that we've started delivering food to ourselves that take us out of the restaurant experience. Are we in danger in any way of losing these spaces that you like? Do you see people continuing to move away from that? Where do you think that fits into the dining conversation?
I don't know if I'm a weirdo or what, but I don't do takeout. It's not that I don't.
Not your preferred.
If we're ordering takeout, it's happening so infrequently and so rarely, and it's more about some sort of weird, I want this thing now. And it's if I have the opportunity or the option, I will always go to the restaurant. We live in sort of like South Denver. We're in Inglewood.
Yeah.
We eat downtown 4 nights a week.
Wow.
We were just at Molino Cheeto over the weekend. It's on a good day with minimal traffic, it's 35 minutes from my house. And I will go do that as opposed to ordering something from the door because, like I said, I think it's not just about the food. I think it's about community and people and building something bigger than us.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty that's happening in the Denver restaurant scene. And you're seeing it just across the board with the chefs in the industry, the owners, the operators. It is an industry that is building people up more than anything else. And I just feel super lucky to be a part of that.
Kevin, thank you so much for being here. This was really
Thank
lovely.
you.
I had so much fun. I'm
cool.
thinking differently about.
Yeah, we should just go out to eat now.
Well, you're saying you're in Inglewood, and I'm like, Gallows, one of my favorite spots.
Yeah.
My God, thank God they renovated that space.
It needed some. It's better.
It's way better.
But it was like you didn't know how to get in there.
You didn't know what you did once
I was
you got
in the wrong
there.
door every single time. We used to love the baked goods and stuff too. We'd go in there, but it was like, am I in the right spot? I feel like I'm in the way.
Kitchen
I'm
in
like,
the wrong way?
Yeah. But
so
it's
funny.
tough, and there's definitely a charm to some of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think from a longevity perspective, getting the things in a way that makes sense means success, right? Like, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
thanks again. This was great.
Thank you. This was amazing. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed the show, why not take a minute to tell Adrian E. about us? Shout out to your brother Anthony for letting me know you're listening. Rate the show wherever you do your podcasts, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at CityCast Denver. Subscribe to our morning newsletter at denver.citycast.fm. Thanks to all our new neighbors who've supported the show. You too can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Denver neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See you then.